I want to welcome everybody here to our Knowledge at Noon today. Thank you for coming in. I know there'll be some more that'll be coming in here as we go. If you have any questions, you can post them to chat, or we'll be doing a Q&A at the end. I want to welcome our moderator, Linda Welter. She is the CEO and principal of the Caliber Group. It's a Tucson-based brand positioning and crisis issues management firm that provides business consulting, leadership development, and marketing PR strategy to help businesses reposition and build value during these challenging times. Linda is also a Tucson Metro Chamber board member and will introduce our guest speaker and moderate the Q&A portion of our presentation today. So thank you very much, and take it away, Linda, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Well, it's my great pleasure today to introduce my business partner, Kerry Stratford. Like many of you on the call today, Kerry is a business owner facing similar challenges since COVID has created a new normal for all of us. Kerry has been providing business and marketing strategy to companies and organizations in this community and all around the US for more than 25 years. As mentioned earlier, the Caliber Group helps businesses grow and build value through brand positioning, communication, and leadership strategies. So really looking forward to Kerry's presentation today. Again, as Jason mentioned, please put your questions in chat. After the presentation today, we're going to open up the dialogue to any questions that you might have, and we look forward to a very interesting dialogue today. So with that, Kerry, take it away.
Thank you. I will hit share here. All right. Are you seeing my slides there, everyone? Linda, Jason, can you see that?
Yes, we can see them.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today and for your participation in these webinars. And thanks to the Chamber for providing these webinars and content to business owners right now. As Linda said, we all need all the help we can get right now. And of course, we at Caliber, we'd love to hear what you think about the session afterwards. So please reach out to us and let us know what was helpful to you. A little background on me, of course, as Linda said, I've been a business owner, like many of you are, for many years, and providing business and marketing strategy to companies and organizations around the US and across the country for more than 25 years. So we build value through brand positioning, communication, and leadership strategies. And today I'm going to share with you some trends in consumer behavior that we at Caliber have been tracking, and that we'll walk you through them. We're going to show you some supporting research and some facts, and how to shift your strategies for what's happening with your audiences as we go through this pandemic and other challenges that we have. If you have any questions, as Jason said, post them in the chat window and we'll get to them at the end. And we're going to leave some time for discussion. So it's no doubt that consumer behavior has changed dramatically in the past few months. Of course, you all probably have noticed and have been seeing this, or have noticed that in yourself, that you're changing the way you do things. And at Caliber, our team are experts in sort of analyzing that consumer behavior and adjusting our clients' strategies to reach audiences. We're seeing consumer behavior really changing so rapidly within such a short period of time that we know for brands, it's really hard to keep up with these changes and know how to adapt to them. So the pandemic also has really accelerated trends, things that maybe were already trends in our lives that have been moving along at a certain pace have been exponentially accelerated. And things that will, impact your life and your business and the way you interact with your customers and your employees for many years, and will endure, we believe, beyond this current crisis. So when we start talking about consumer behavior, one of the first things I wanted to do was take a look at sort of consumer sentiment. And consumer sentiment really judges the amount of confidence that Americans feel about their financial status currently, or whether they feel their situation will change in the future for better or worse. So this directly impacts their feeling on the ability to purchase goods and services. So understandably, consumer confidence, as you can see in this chart, has dipped in the past few months. But it's started to rise a little in the past few weeks, and we will likely continue to see ups and downs in confidence as states start to open up, and the indicators will be geographically based depending on how a state is doing. This is a quick snapshot that shows you sort of our region and how Arizona consumers have been feeling in relation to other states in our region. So I would say, you know, across the board, everyone sort of feels like they're in the same boat. So this graph shows the concerns of chief financial officers that was just taken a snapshot in June about what people are concerned about. And you can see the health concerns right at the top, followed by the economic downturns and the financial impacts. So we know that CFOs tend to come from an accounting side, so it isn't totally surprising that these are at the top of their minds, but it really does speak to financial risks of business owners during this time. And if you're in a business that works in a business-to-business environment where you target other businesses, our research is showing that the intent to purchase is still really strong with this category, where more than half of B2B buyers are considering purchases. To drill down into that a little further, this graph kind of shows you how about 26% have cut back on purchases, while the others either didn't have a need or are moving ahead with planned buying. So that's a positive indicator for sort of the B2B market. So now that we've talked a little bit about the consumer sentiment and generally how people are feeling, businesses and consumers alike, and how they're spending right now, at Caliber, we've been tracking some consumer behavior trends that we have seen emerge and are affecting people's behavior, how they reach and engage with and motivate audiences to act. So we're going to walk you through each one of these and give you some context for the trend, show you some brands that are getting it right, and how you might adjust your strategies for each change in behavior. So the first trend is called mindful consumption. And this trend really stems from reduced income leading to buying pattern shifts. You know, for many Americans, their incomes have declined. People have reduced their consumption of some items, but increased in other areas. They're spending more on essentials. We're seeing a lot of graphs that show how many groceries people are buying right now. And then they're spending less on discretionary items. So also, since people aren't traveling right now, we're seeing increases in the purchases of home improvement items, camping equipment, motorhomes and RVs, and recreational equipment that will allow people to get out into nature and away from people, but in a safe way. And so that's how people are sort of getting out of their shells a little bit, and these are the types of things that they're purchasing. People are also right now getting their finances in order and refinancing their homes. They're consolidating debt, getting their wills and estate plans in order. They really, you know, they have more time on their hands to take care of these things, and that's things that they've needed to do and didn't have the time. So what we're seeing is that people are still buying. They're just being selective in their purchases. You know, recent research anticipates that a 5.8% increase in the number of digital buyers 45 and older. So in this older audience, that equates to a nearly 5 million new users online and purchasing, which is a pretty big deal for those brands that are selling goods and services online. And most shoppers in the past have had really an abundance of choices at the stores. So the fact that we all, for a time, couldn't get certain items, and in some cases, maybe there are still things that we're not getting, that's going to linger with audiences and impact the way they buy as well. They might be likely stocking up on staples regularly, or doing that recurring purchase model to make sure that they stay up on having what they need and when they need it. Brands are also really taking advantage of consumers wanting a deal, something added value, or in this case with Hotel Congress, they're offering something extra if you do travel, or if you get out of your house and have a bit of a staycation, you'll get something added as a value to your purchase. We also see other brands like Boca Tacos using their website to highlight weekly specials and deals, and offering things for first responders. Because people are home and we have more time on our hands, you know, website visits and time on social media have really increased. So consumers are looking for these deals in the various communications that you all are sending out, and they want to hear what you have to offer. Hotel McCoy also is offering discounts through their social channels, and this one particularly showing their support to those affected and evacuated with the Bighorn fire. So also showing sort of a bit of humanity as they're adding deals to some of their communications. And one of my favorite things is to kind of watch what's trending. This particular trending pins from Pinterest drops into my email box, and I've noticed lately that it's really underscoring what we're talking about here, sort of the trend of mindful spending with a lot of do-it-yourself or DIY projects and things that you can do, not paying for services, you know, avoiding waste right now, and consolidating of debt and all of those types of things to really be more mindful of your spending. And it really translates into every category. You can also see that people are searching for glamping spots and places to hike near their homes. Again, getting out and being safe while they're exercising. So this is something to really watch. And also we know that this will bleed over into B2B buyers' mindsets as well, because they are also changing their personal behaviors, and so it will bleed into their decisions on the business side. Brands like our client Hughes Federal Credit Union are helping Tucsonans with getting their finances in order, consolidating debt, and tackling home projects through social posts and webinars. And the pandemic has brought out consumer feelings of their own mortality and that of their families, and it's causing them to get their affairs in order. So if you're online, you've probably likely seen an increase in this type of ads. So where do you focus your efforts to take advantage of this trend? I can't stress enough that you want to continue to build your direct-to-consumer channels that you own, like your Facebook page and your website and your e-blast. As you'll see, some of these channels are going to come up in many of the trends throughout the presentation. As we're moving to a cookieless society within the next few years, and as privacy laws catch up with advertising that can identify you online, you're not going to be able to rely on others to help you reach your ideal target. You'll want to own as much of that data yourself. So today we're advocating for you to do that. As we said before, people are online and looking for deals. So you're going to want to integrate ways of offering specials to your customers through your Google profile or your online advertising or your social channels and your website. Offer a future discount for those who write a review and share your experience with your brand, or someone who connects with you online. If you have products and services that will support consumers' need for adventure, help them plan their getaways. So our second trend is the homebound economy. And there's really a wide range of comfort levels right now for consumers about venturing out and returning to old behaviors. We know that most people are not going to revert to their old behaviors while they're in this current homebound economy. And this comfort level divide really includes everything from returning to work, shopping in stores, as opposed to having things shipped and delivered, even to eating out in restaurants. So everyone has their own feelings about what they're comfortable doing. And you're going to have to retool your personas to reach these folks where they are and within their comfort zone. So online usage is up across the board, as you well imagine, in terms of consuming digital content based on mobile apps and streaming, TV, gaming, e-commerce. And then beyond that, what we're all using to keep our separated workforces working and connected, like Zoom and all the other connection tools online. So a Pew Research study showed that 53% of Americans said that the internet has been essential to them during the pandemic. It's not just a nice to have anymore, it's definitely needed. But Americans are really feeling that loss of social shopping experiences. They're not really ready to go back to the brick and mortar stores until they feel safe, but they miss it. So it's another way that we need to underscore that you'll have to reach out to consumers of all types and meet them where they're comfortable, online or curbside with heightened protocols, letting them know about your cleanliness in your stores or offices. And this graph really highlights that the majority of people will feel safe within a 2 to 6 month time frame. But you can see that some will take longer, and some say they never may go back to the way they were. At Caliber, we use personas like the one you see here, which are really representative but fictitious user types. These help us with our team and our clients understand the demographics and psychographics of each client segment. And personas right now are really needing sort of an added layer to them, something that we might not have ever put in here before. And that's really where each segment is willing to engage, which means in this case, we might be adding a strategy for Bob here that is online through an app on his iPad maybe, and using curbside pickup. And we're all familiar with the recent rise of the ways we're connecting with the homebound economy through mobile apps and online or over the phone delivery services. This level of expectation for turnaround time, such as groceries in as little as an hour and Amazon deliveries overnight, is really setting an expectation for future shopping experiences that we may or may not be able to live up to and keep up with in the long run. Local and national brands are using sort of these curbside offerings as a way to sort of bridge that gap, while consumers are sort of dipping their toe in the water and deciding when they won't come back to a bricks and mortar business. So we're all getting a little spoiled. We don't even have to go to the store anymore. And this is a likely trend that is going to stay with us, even for those folks who haven't done a lot of online shopping in the past. And in many cases, we don't even have to talk to a human to get a transaction done and delivered. We place an order online, we text somebody when we're there, they bring it out to our car, they drop it on our doorstep. These are expectations that will definitely linger. And so you need to be thinking about how your business can meet this type of expectation, really no matter what type of good or service you provide. So for this trend, you're going to want to put yourself inside the mind of your customer and figure out where their pain points are. How can you use technology to reduce those barriers? And I will suspect that you'll see this type of thinking extended to businesses beyond retail and even into B2B. So make sure that you update, or if you haven't, create those personas and think through who your customers are and how they might be willing to interact with you. And then reduce those barriers for contacting you and making sure that you are available to your customers, and figure out a plan for sort of meeting those expectations that we've been setting recently. You know, those that do come back and engage with your business will surely want right now a contactless engagement, or maybe a less contact experience. So this is our third trend. Right now, you're either adapting your products and services for use at home, delivery, or providing it online in some way, or you're working to adjust your place of work for new protocols and procedures. Some of us that we've just received some of these procedures, and they're somewhat daunting, actually. So this statistic sets the stage for where consumers are highly sensitive to factors that may not have been really a concern for them in the past, where they're wanting high traffic surfaces cleaned. And it's a pretty big number too, 81%. So here's an example of the use of social media to showcase sort of these new policies and protocols. And this local brand is keeping their customers safe by new cleaning protocols that they're kind of highlighting online. They're showing videos, they're showing their staff doing time lapse of cleaning up the place after each class. And this is a great way of showing your customers that you care about their safety. Same brand, also going a step further, and they're putting their procedures for their visitors online and spelling it out on their website. They're answering their customers' questions before they even ask. And you know, if somebody doesn't see it on your website, they're going to assume that you aren't doing anything, and they might not take the time to ask before taking their business elsewhere. Distancing is really also on the mind of consumers, with 72% saying they want more space between them and others. We know we've been hearing that with restaurants separating tables and things like that. Here, the Roadhouse Cinemas has clearly stated their guidelines online on their website for distancing seats. And what they're doing is that when you book seats online, they'll automatically block the seats around you, so that you are given like sort of a safety buffer. And the Loft Cinema is offering private screenings, the rentals for groups of up to 10 people for $100 an hour. So they're staying within that guideline, but offering it in a safe manner so that they can continue to use their space in a safe way while staying within the guidelines. Both of these local theaters are using their Google business profiles to engage with their customers. So keeping them updated of developments, letting them know the ways that they can safely connect. The Loft is using their closure to encourage gift card purchases online, and they can use those later when the theater reopens. Many brands are overlooking this way of promoting changes to your open status, your hours, even your delivery options and your promotional offers, all available when you claim your Google business profile. This is a really what we consider sort of low-hanging fruit. The first thing that you need to do is make sure that this is updated, and you can make changes to it as often as you need to keep your customers updated. Bed Bath & Beyond is also doing a really good job of sharing their protocols sort of contactless or less contact access for their customers through these infographics. They've been sending these out by email, which I've been getting, and it makes it really clear that you can safely go into their store. They're being very upfront about what they're doing to make people safe. So, if somebody has a question about whether they're going to be safe in your environment, they may not opt to engage. So promote what you've done to keep your staff and your customers safe. Barrio Bread, another local brand here in town, they posted their COVID policy online, and it explains that how you're going to interact with their staff when you come to their place of business. So it's really no surprise when you get there and you're not allowed to go inside. You have to queue outside, and they let you know that ahead of time. So make sure that you are letting your customers know what the expectation is for that engagement when they do arrive at your business. And 72 Aquatics, which is a local dive shop, they're offering all kinds of really great online classes right now to keep their customers engaged and excited about underwater adventures. Most of their potential customers and regular customers probably are not comfortable traveling at this point, or diving or training. So it's ways that they can engage with the brand, and these folks are going to be loyal to them when they're ready to return. So retailers, they're going to have to get creative as customers are comfortable buying online. Brands are going to have to find better ways to showcase their inventory, to make sure shoppers know what clothes and shoes are going to fit, and to think about how to bring your products to life through maybe virtual reality, augmented reality, virtual tours, or other innovative methods. For this trend, update your efforts or focus your efforts on promoting your contactless or less contact plan, and make sure to update your Google business profile. Our fourth trend is be well and healthy. And there's obviously and understandably a focus on health and safe living right now. So there's also a lot of anxiety, and many people are in crisis and need support. With the current political backdrop and travel restrictions and distancing from loved ones and the 24/7 news cycle and all the financial stressors, there really isn't anyone who can say they haven't experienced some sort of stress in our current environment. And this trend says that nearly 1/3 of adults say they're not really reaching their health and wellness goals because they have all these day-to-day responsibilities. With 64% of consumers fearful for their own health and 82% fearful for the health of their loved ones, there's just a lot of anxiety and fear out there. According to this CFO survey, leaders are continuing to prioritize safety measures, with 81% taking steps like requiring masks and offering testing to workers, and 78% reconfiguring their work sites to promote physical distancing. And they feel pretty confident that they're going to be able to meet the customer safety expectations and provide a safe working environment. But with that amount of fear that we just saw expressed in that last graph for themselves and for others, you really can't overlook your internal audiences when planning for this trend. A health strategy is going to position your organization for outperforming your competition during hiring, and for keeping the employees and the customers that you have safe and well. For your internal team, a health strategy can include one-on-one check-ins, access to online or app workouts, other activities that promote a sense of connectedness among your team. And one idea is to put your health conscious staff in charge of developing and managing these touch points to keep your team very mentally and physically well. Very important at this time. The Headspace brand, if you've heard of that, has apps online for meditation, and they started offering free subscriptions of their meditation apps to healthcare professionals who they know are overly stressed during this time. And then they partnered with Hyatt to unlock a collection of sleep therapy and meditation sessions free to the public under the name Weathering the Storm. So take advantage of free offers like this for your team. Offer it to your staff and let them know that you recognize that right now is a stressful time for all. So for this trend, you're going to need to focus on your health strategy. And that could be for your internal and your external audiences. Each of these audiences is going to be equally vulnerable and important to your business. And you're going to want to build something that can be incorporated into your hiring practices. Our fifth trend is family first. I think Americans have spent more time with their families in the recent months, probably likely more than ever. Sort of the family, it's like the families of the 50s or the 60s, and returning with family dinners and playing board games and watching shows together, taking walks, getting to know your neighbors and your neighborhood. People are shopping for their family and taking care of those around them in their neighborhoods. And research is showing that people are going to prioritize more time. 55% said they would prioritize more time with family. And this is a trend that they are saying they will do long after the pandemic. And one that brands are going to need to adapt to appeal to sort of a wider range of family-friendly consumers. One brand that's really leaned into this family-friendly trend is Fox Restaurants. If any of you have been getting these, they've really created a special sort of meal packs at all of their restaurants, specifically for families. You can adopt this type of strategy if you have a product or service that can be adapted to a family pack or delivered in multiples, because I think this has been very successful for them. Charities and brands are also getting on board with this renewed sense of family and togetherness with online Zoom board game nights and offering game ideas to their followers. This type of content is great for social media and will have potential customers following you with the family-friendly ideas and suggestions. To focus on this trend, you want to package products and services for families or offer content that will appeal to this audience. I know at Caliber, we shared links to one of our clients' coloring pages, which were a huge hit and greatly appreciated by parents who follow us. So you can promote strategies for this trend through social, on Google, and through your email marketing list. Our sixth trend is the local lens. We know that localism is sort of already a movement, but it's really become mainstream and top of mind as everyone is looking at the world through a very different lens right now. Consumers are looking for local sourcing of brands, and brands are looking at their suppliers and materials, and everyone wants to build relationships locally. So there's really this heightened interest in knowing where your goods or services are coming from and supporting those in your local community. The key to this trend is telling your story on how you are a homegrown local brand or a local connection to a larger entity with local relevancy and impact. So as you can see from the stats here, the vast majority of Americans are really invested in the idea of their local community. And this is another trend that we expect will continue on long after the current crisis. Local brands really came to the rescue when there was a scarcity of essential products. They were able to pivot, and with sourcing of local goods and being nimble with increased speed to market times, they in many cases saved the day when we had products that we couldn't get. So this trend is all about storytelling and how you fit into the local landscape. Let your customers know where your products are made and what communities you support. Pop Cycle on 4th Avenue is a really great example of a local brand that tells their story and their connection to the community very well. Their retail storefront has been closed recently, but it's offering these walk-up windows at designated times, and customers stay up to date from posts on their websites. And also you can take a virtual tour of their shop and continue to support all the local makers that are showcased in their storefront. You can actually buy right off that wall. Maynard's Market has also sort of leaned further into the local trend, as they were kind of already, they were doing this before, but with this farmers market of all locally sourced items, and they're offering those in their virtual marketplace. Focus on this trend by telling your story. List your local partners and those you source from. Partner with other local brands for an added brand lift. And this information can really be used across all of your marketing channels online. Brands, and especially younger generations, they want to know about this. They want to know how you're sourcing your goods and services. And our last trend relates to the current focus on diversity and inclusiveness. Our younger generations see the world events that we're living in currently as the most impactful events of their lifetime. So you will have to decide how you're going to engage in these conversations as a business. Even if you've had a diversity program in the past, you'll need to take a fresh look at it. The thing I hear from most clients right now is that they don't know how to jump into the conversation, and they're afraid to offend, so they say nothing. But it all starts with being open and vulnerable and asking the hard questions of your friends and coworkers directly that are directly impacted by these issues. And then listening. Listening is the key to this. So unlike Gen X and Boomers, who tend to have a more sort of traditional definition of diversity, the younger generations define diversity with a much broader brush, beyond just demographics, but one that includes experiences and perspectives that every individual brings to the table. So inclusion is creating that environment where everyone feels included. So you really can't just focus on one or the other. Diversity and inclusion really go hand in hand. I've seen some pretty courageous brands take a step forward and respond to the issues that we've been experiencing over the last month or so, even though they fully admitted that they didn't have all the answers, and that's okay. So this is a local social post from the Hotel McCoy. Went on for about 4 different pages. We've also seen some amazing leadership, sort of shining a light on our local Black-owned businesses. And Hotel Congress is hosting this Soul Food Wednesday series. And with the heavy lift of raising a new brand in just a few weeks, Black Friday is up and running on the web. And a team of locals sort of organized this and developed an important need for the community. And I'm really glad to see the positive support that they're getting for this project, which lists Black-owned businesses in Tucson. If you're unsure how to jump in, you'll want to utilize your staff who are closest to these issues and ask them how they're feeling. And what would be the best and next steps? Or seek out friends from the Black community to help guide you as you define your strategy. I found this thoughtful approach and list of questions sort of a good starting point for a conversation. "80% of respondents to one survey said that inclusion is important to them when choosing an employer. 39% would leave their current employer for a more inclusive one, and 30% of millennials said they had already left an employer for lack of inclusion. So if you think this issue is not on the minds of your employees, you're probably missing something." So for this trend, listening is really key. Each brand is going to need to find their own path forward, but the most important thing is to find how these important concepts fit into your culture and the culture of your organization. By going on a listening tour and enlisting a champion from your own team, fostering that environment where diversity and inclusion can take root, you're going to be on a good path to go forward. And don't be afraid to share your progress. Many are watching how brands are progressing on these issues right now. So share your progress as you move along on social media, maybe in the employee area of your website or through your email marketing. So we have covered a lot of change in the last part of an hour. So I'm going to now turn it back over to Linda, who can moderate any questions you might have, or even a discussion around some of these trends.
Okay, thank you, Kerry, for that insightful presentation. Wow, packed with lots of good information, actionable information that we can all use in our organizations. And I loved seeing all the local examples of businesses that are paving the way and being role models for all of us in terms of how they're managing this pandemic and how they're pivoting and surviving with many of the actions that they're taking right now. So with that, I'd like to hear from our audience any questions that you might have of Kerry. If not, I'll kick off the first question. So Kerry, in this era of helping your customer, you recommended early in your presentation about discounting your products and services right now to help the consumer. But as organizations and businesses well know, there's a cost to doing that. And how do you know when to shift your strategy and discontinue doing this with cash flow as a consideration? And can you speak to a recommendation for those on our call today, or perhaps address the benefits of developing brand loyal advocates over time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, certainly you don't want to get into the habit of discounting your services all the time. You know, you don't want to have every single one of your customers thinking, oh, that's the place I go when I need a deal. But right now, having that as a part of your strategy is really good, as Linda said, for brand loyalty. People are needing help, and so if you're able to do that, as long as you're you know, keeping an eye on your bottom line. Maybe it's only a certain type of good or service that you're able to do that on. Maybe there's certain types of products that you can give back to, and then others maybe not. And you have a strategy that at some point you're going to change that model so that it's not expected. We've all heard of brands who have a whole brand strategy of discounts. I think we talked about one in the presentation, which is Bed Bath & Beyond, where everyone expects that they never go to Bed Bath & Beyond without getting a 20% discount. So you have to be careful of setting that precedence. But I think it's appropriate right now to sort of give that extra discount to your brand loyal advocates, and maybe that's through some of your channels. Maybe you're building those email channels and your social channels by only giving some of those discounts to your brand loyal customers.
I know one example that we've certainly seen at the Caliber Group is many software companies offering their service for free for 90 days. And then at the end of the 90-day period, then you engage in a longer term subscription, for example. That's one strategy that we've seen a lot of. Has anyone else on the call today seen anything that's working really well, where they start off with discounting a service or offering something for free or highly discounted, and then it converts into a longer term offering strategy? Has anyone else seen anything that's worth sharing today?
I think we're all waiting to see if Zoom is going to be that thing, right? There's all these recurring revenue models like Zoom, or like this meditation app. I mean, of course, they're going to give it to these healthcare providers, hoping that they'll get them hooked on it, that they really like it, and they'll pay for it in the future. But I'm waiting to see if Zoom is able to monetize that at some point, because they really did save all of us at the beginning of the pandemic.
Kerry, you had talked about in your presentation this trend towards supporting local, which I'm thrilled to see. And there's also another benefit to supporting local. For a while, the business strategy had shifted to a global supply chain mentality in terms of let's get our products and services at a highly discounted rate from China, for example. But what's happened with this shift is the reliability of the global supply chain has been shaken up. It's been tipped on its side. And in addition to supporting the economy in our own local communities, there's also a benefit of reliability, of having someone just physically closer that you can establish a better relationship with. Do you want to expand on that concept at all? I know we're a big supporter of Local First Arizona, and perhaps you could expand on that concept.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that concept. Just seeing the amount of brands who were able to support our local community with masks when we couldn't get masks. Seeing Sparkle Cleaners start to make masks for folks, and a lot of local brands were doing that. Distilleries making hand sanitizer. I think that all of us have learned that lesson pretty well over the last couple of months, how the local economy is, can be a great source for products that are more reliable, that we can get quicker. And I think it's a lesson that we're all going to take with us beyond this time, because I feel like, I think we're all a little worried about the fact that I think we're all going to keep an extra roll or package of toilet paper in the cupboard from now on, when we probably didn't do that before. So having sort of these like local suppliers, when we would go to Safeway and nothing was there, but then we'd go to the local, the co-op down the street, and it would be fully packed. So I think we've learned a lot of lessons about that sort of thing. And so we support local, like you said, Linda. Caliber is always a huge supporter of supporting our local businesses, which in turn supports our economy. It supports our workforce. And that's very important to all of us for a healthy business environment.
Michael, you have a question.
I do, thank you. So going to the diversity and inclusiveness trend, I know a lot of what you two talk about when you talk to companies is the importance of being authentic. Mm-hmm. That's like, if it's not number one, it's pretty dang close to number one. And so you talked a little bit about, I mean, you had the HEART sort of acronym up there, but I'm just curious as to how companies can really demonstrate that authenticity on issues like Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, other big social issues that crop up that they want to react to in an authentic way.
You know, I think we do a lot of work with clients in the arena of sort of change management, and then also setting your culture, where we work with companies to define their culture. And I think that your reaction to anything, like whether it's diversity or inclusion or Black Lives Matter or sort of an LGBTQ plus type of issue, is all going to come from that place of culture. And that's why, you know, it's going to be, like you say, authentic. That's why I kept saying it has to come from you. You're going to have to pick your own path forward, because the way you respond may seem odd if someone else responded that same way. I think that people have to find that way in what makes sense for their company and what makes sense for their staff and how they are feeling. Authenticity is very important, and I just don't think it's sort of second nature for some brands to automatically know what to say when a new topic comes up, and they have to always go back to their why. You know, going back to Simon Sinek, you know, what is your why, and what does that tell you to do about this issue? What does it tell? How does it tell you to respond based on what your culture is and what your cultural beliefs are? So I know at Caliber we have cultural beliefs, and they really guide us in the way our staff interacts with each other, the way we interact with each other, the way we treat and serve our clients, the way we interact with others in the community, and I think this is no different.
Michael, I would add to what Kerry said. An important part of culture is defining your values within your organization, and really understanding that the consumer now really has a more laser focused look at companies' values, and they are looking to purchase from organizations that share their same values and are purpose driven. So right now, when issues arise, and you as an organization, as a leader within your organization, it's really important now to demonstrate that you're listening, you're hearing, and communicating how you feel, but going one step further and demonstrating how you feel through your actions. So actions are really important right now, and they're very much tied to your organization's purpose, your values. Okay, do we have any other questions from our audience? Kerry answered all of your questions.
They're quite
awesome.
Group. I wanted to know if any of those sort of trends that we've identified resonated with anyone. Are they seeing that amongst their customers, or are they seeing that, you know, out in the world?
You nailed it, Kerry.
You agree, Lucinda?
Oh yeah. I mean, I see it personally. You know, it's just really interesting when you talk to your sort of colleagues as well as your social circle, just how everybody's feeling about the world right now. One thing I was also thinking about too was sort of a de-emphasis on quantity and more of an emphasis on quality now, especially as we look to locally made goods. You know, consumer spending is down considerably, and definitely I saw some info on, you know, it's way down from for more affluent groups. And I think that, you know, when you talk about kind of going back to the 50s and you know, being more family oriented, and, you know, people have been forced to be a lot more creative with limited resources, because for a long time we couldn't find the gym equipment that we needed, or we couldn't find the pasta flour that we needed. And so I think as we sort of move on, we realize, gosh, we don't need all of those things that we thought we needed or wanted. So
you're right, and I'm also I saw in my research a lot of brand or a lot of trends and graphs about how people will be very careful about how they choose brands in the future, because they're being more mindful, they're being more selective.
sure.
And you know, all of these trends, including what Linda was talking about with folks who share their values, people will be choosing brands based on aligning their values with that of a brand, and then picking that brand based on those values. So it's very true how we're sort of honing in on that.
So Lucinda, I just wanted to take off on one of the things that you just said. I think there's this general perception that all consumer spending is down, and actually a recent study by Deloitte indicated that while about 2/3 of spending is down, actually 1/3 of spending is either at maintaining and or increased, and that's a smaller audience segment that, you know what, their job hasn't been impacted. They're at home. They have, as Kerry mentioned, the use of the internet has gone up by 70%. They have time on their hands, and they are buying things to increase their comfort and their enjoyment at home. They're also, that's the audience segment that's buying the recreational vehicles, the RVs, the fifth wheels, for example. And then there's also a smaller percentage of the consumer segment right now that are actually buying purchases that are what one would consider luxury purchases, that it's all about very much tied to their mental state. Mm-hmm. And you would not think that during a pandemic they would be spending extra money on these odd luxury purchases right now, but they are, because it makes them feel better. So not all consumer spending has decreased. And so depending on what products and services you're offering, it's really understanding your own target audience. As Kerry mentioned, part of our strategic planning process is to take a very deep dive into understanding our audiences and knowing everything about what's going on with them. And that can help shape and influence your own organization's strategies on, say, new product and service offerings that you might provide to your consumers because they need it now. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. Do we have any other final questions before we wrap up today? Okay, well, if not, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Kerry, for your wisdom and insights. It was fabulous, and we thank you. So thank you all for being here. And Jason, do you have any other final announcements?
Yes, again, I want to thank Kerry and Linda. You guys always do such a fantastic job. That's always takes a lot to take home to think about. So always appreciate that. I want to let everybody know next Tuesday, the 30th, we have our Pause, Pivot, and Prosper. Michael Guyman will be moderating that one. It will be about the discussion on a panel consisting of about how the business has succeeded in reinventing themselves during the crisis. So we'll have a panel of, let me look here, Ray Flores from Flores Concepts, Megan Jasper and Jana Westerbeek from Gadabout Salons, and Jeff Artsy and Linda Wiederstein from Uru Auto. So Mike will be, sorry about that. Michael will be moderating. The one time I'm talking and then my phone gets a text. Michael will be moderating that for us next week. So we hope you all will join us then. And thank you to you both again for helping us the last 3 weeks with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye all.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone. Good day.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Linda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry.
See ya.
Thanks, both of you.
Bye, Lucy.
Bye.